Great bumper music. Love it. We need to start having more. By the way, that a bumper music is original.
I could have guessed that.
Yeah, it's for those of you who don't know, I actually the Jubal Project is also a music publishing house type of deal. I actually have several songs that I haven't released yet. In fact, that hasn't been released. Well, technically, it has been released because we're using it, but beside the point. That's beside the point. But okay, so anyway, let's get into the show. Let's start off with the what we left with last time, which was, is it in the Bible? So, Steve, let's go ahead and do yours first.
My statement is, people in hell want ice water. Is it in the Bible? As it's written, no, it is not not as it's written. Well, Luke 16:24 specifically says that, I'll read it. And he called out, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and said, Lazarus, dip the end of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish and in flame. So is people in hell want ice water? I would think that they do want ice water, but as it's written, it's no. But people in hell do definitely want something to quench the flames.
Right. And by the way, Miss Belinda Lloyd got the answer of that correctly.
High five, Miss Belinda. Good job.
Yes, as also the one for me as well, which is does God want us to be happy? Now I do want to get into a little detail on the response to that. The actual response is yes, but let me tell you a little bit of the, hopefully, as people were looking at these things up, maybe they found some other things too about this, because in Jeremiah, in chapter 11 and 14, I'm gonna read actually about 4 verses of different places, finishing up in John when actually Jesus is talking about something to give the final answer. But the very first thing I want to point out, and this is really kind of harsh because it actually piggybacks off what we also talked about not yesterday, but the last show last week. And it's, again, this is Jeremiah chapter 11, and this is verse 14. Now, if you want to know a little bit about the background leading up to it, that's fine. You can go read it yourself. But I just want to read this part here because it's such a slap in the face, so to speak. So it says, "So you, Jeremiah, don't pray for these people. Don't cry. Don't pray on their behalf, because I won't listen to them when they cry to me because of their troubles. What right does my beloved have to be in my house when she has behaved so shamelessly with so many? Offering of consecrated meat can no longer help." In other words, sacrifice can no longer help, because it is when you are doing evil that you are happy. So it talks about being happy, but happy about doing evil, and that's what pisses God off, which it should. Can't deny that, because wow, I don't know what to say about that one. But anyway, also in Jeremiah in chapter 29, and this was 29:11. Okay, and then now we're going back to God wanting to be for us. So he's talking about, this is again after he has sent Israel off into Babylon for 70 years. It says, I'll remember you and fulfill my good promise to you by bringing you back to this place. For I know what plans I have in mind for you, says Adonai. Plans for well-being, not for bad things, so that you can have hope and a future. So that's reassuring, and that's that was definitely from Jeremiah, one of the major prophets. That's one of the things that I think is very enlightening, very, very helpful, very encouraging. It's a hope. All right, then we're going to go to Proverbs 3 and 18, and I'm pulling these up real quick as I'm going through here. So this is talking about those who are looking for a window or for wisdom. She is a tree of life to those who grasp her, and whoever holds fast to her will be made happy. Okay, so again, he's hoping that we all become wise and not foolish, and become happy. But one of the most wise people who wrote Ecclesiastes wrote in here as well in chapter 3, verses 12 and 13. It says, I know there's nothing better for them to do than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Still, the fact that everyone can eat and drink and enjoy the good that results from all his work, it's a gift of God. So, all of this is a gift of God. God has given us all these things to enjoy, okay? And now, here's what Jesus says about this. This is in John 10. All right. So, the thief comes only in order to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come so that they may have life in its fullest measure. I think that explains it right there. Does God want us to be happy?
God wants us to be happy.
God wants us to be happy. Absolutely. But anyway, good job, Belinda, on that. And then also let's go ahead and kick off now into the reading here. Let's go. Let me pull that up just a hair. Why don't you start us off? I don't know. Did you start last time or did I start last time?
I think you did.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead and start us off.
All right. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal which Adonai has made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you are not to eat from any tree in the garden?"
Okay, stop.
Okay.
What did he say? So what did he say?
Well, let's find out what he really did say.
Yeah. Let's go back and see. What did he say?
But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat it you should surely die. That's what he said.
Yep, so you may freely eat from every tree in the garden except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the question was, did God really say that you are not to eat from any tree in the garden? So that's already a twist in the question. That's being a setup already.
It's being conniving. He's being the liar that he is.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
setting them up.
All right. So anyway, continue on.
The woman answered the serpent, "We may eat from the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden," God said, "you are neither to eat from it or touch it, or you will die." The serpent said to the woman, "It is not true that you will surely die, because God knows that one day you'll eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil."
Now, how would the serpent know this? You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So, if the serpent, which what is a serpent? Is a serpent most likely everybody thinks it's a snake because of what the curse that happens. So, how could it possibly know? And why would Eve or Hevla, however they want to call her, how could she possibly think, oh, here's an animal that's trying to tell me something that I'm supposed to be taking care of all animals and taking care of all of the garden, and yet she believed the serpent more so than her husband. Because remember, God told Adam this. I don't know that Eve was there yet to hear that. I mean, maybe he reset it again. I don't know. It doesn't.
But
say
I'm sure he said it to her.
That's my point. Because she verified that. Yeah, she verified. Right. Yeah, that's exactly what she said. But why is she believing a creature more than God? And how is it that she can even understand? Because I think there's a connection there that's still there probably, but it's how can we talk to an animal? You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question.
So not only just that portion, but the twisting of the question. Right off the bat, it's a twist of the question. Because it's kind of like, hey, did you stop beating your wife? It's a twisted question. If you've never beat your wife, the answer is no. Oh, you still beat your wife? No, I've never beat my wife. But you just said that you stopped. I asked if you stopped beating your wife. That's a twisted question.
Right.
So again, it's the same thing. Started off with that particular thing. She fell for it, and she didn't realize. Again, to me, it's important to understand as people who we really are. Okay, who are we? Okay, and she completely took who she was and just didn't matter. And I don't know how many years already there have been in the garden at this point. I have no idea. I don't think it ever says. But
I don't think it says that.
Yeah, I don't think
it does not give a time frame. But she's been there long enough to know.
Yes, that's my
what to do,
point.
what not to do. And
That's my point. That's my point. Okay, and that's kind of all I want to really point out there. If you want to add anything, please feel free to jump in there.
Well, all I was trying to say is the fact that she was, the snake tricked her, the serpent tricked her, for whatever reason, I don't know, but she was tricked. And to answer these questions, and we're going to find out what exactly happens here in a second.
Yeah, okay. That's all I wanted to point out. So please keep on.
When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it had pleasing appearance, that the tree was desirable for making one wise, she took some of its fruit and ate.
Okay, so right there we can tell it's not an apple. It's not an apple. There was a single tree. There was not a species of tree. It was a single tree, and it had the desire it's for making one wise. Okay, so does an apple, is that desirable for making one wise? Wow.
Well, you could say the same thing about a strawberry.
Well, that's what I'm
Strawberries
saying.
don't make people wise.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think we have. I don't know that we. I don't know that this is a fruits that's a tangible grab it fruit. I still don't know that. It's just something I keep thinking about, that this is not a food for consumption of the mouth. It's a food for the consumption of the soul. And if you want to go deeper into that on your own, that's great. I just wanted to say that I think there's more here going on than meets the eye. Okay, continue on.
And ate. And she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. So here's an issue right there. The husband was right next to Eve. Yep. As she's talking to the snake, and the snake is trying to make her do something. And why didn't Adam jump in the middle of it and say, "Hey, Eve, this is not good. Go walk away. This guy's trying to do a bad thing."
Sermons have been written about that particular instance as well. That particular thing, and even God addresses that here shortly, and chastises him about that.
He should have did something.
Exactly. That's exactly what he gets at. But the issue is damage done. Can't go back. If there's something, if there's anybody young out there, and it hasn't been married, haven't had a relationship or anything with other people, and they're still just building their friends and all that kind of stuff, be careful. Be very, very careful of everything. Be intentional in life. Don't just fly through it. Be intentional, because once damage is done, you can't undo it. It's like, what's that parable about when you throw the rock? Once it leaves your hand, you can't pull it back. Can't pull it back. Don't throw the rock. In other words, just ensure what you do is you're intending to do it. Okay, that was in reference to Adam.
Right.
By the way, I said the term Adam. It's actually pronounced Adam, but I'm not splitting hairs. Some people say Adam, some people say Adam. To me, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yep. Okay, so he ate.
They both ate. Then the eyes of them were wide open. It doesn't say wide open, but I added that.
Yep.
And they realized they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together to make themselves loincloths. So when they ate this fruit, whatever the fruit is, they became aware of themselves, and they became ashamed. They're naked and they were ashamed.
Yes. And why fig leaves? Why not
Probably.
taro? Taro are bigger leaves than figs. That's my point. I mean, there's stuff going on here. I think there's a reason why it's a fig leaf. I think there's something going on there.
Maybe
anyway.
the overabundance of fig leaves. But the point I was going to make is the fact that it's like adolescence. You're a child, and you play with childish things, and you have imagination.
Yeah.
And it's not till a little bit later in life you become self-aware, and you're aware of who you are, and you're aware of your nakedness, and you are ashamed. I think it's just like an eye-woken. You open your eyes to things. And I think that's what's going on here.
Right. Well, it's interesting you should say that as you get older, because what I became more ashamed of was how much after I started studying and learning things about, not only spiritual things but also sciences and engineering. The more I got into it, the more I became embarrassed of how little I actually knew. Even though I know quite a bit, I don't know it all. Nobody does.
There's a saying that says, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And that's all they're saying is, I think I'm going to be pretty good as a racetrack driver, and I'm going to beat everybody. But no, you don't know how to run. You don't know how to do it until you try it, and you exercise, and you race around the track a couple times.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know until you know it.
And if you don't know how to drift,
you don't know how to
don't
drift.
do it in the race.
No. Hopefully that's not the first time you do it.
Exactly. That'd be a bad thing. Okay, so let's. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I do not. Hey,
Okay.
Can you bring that up a little bit?
Yeah, sure can. All right, so they heard the voice of Adonai, God, walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze. Okay, so I know it's a comma, but I'm going to stop right there just for a second. What do you think that sounds like? I think it's that gentle voice. I don't think it was a booming, like when the Israelites were out in the wilderness. I don't think it was that. I think it was the calm, powerful love.
So, with that being said, the calm, powerful love, God knows what's going on. God is God. He understands what just happened.
Yep.
And he doesn't want to be that booming voice. He doesn't want to be that authoritarian voice. He wants to be a nice, soothing, calm voice. So they don't get afraid. They're not spooked, if you will. Because if you're trying to discipline a child, you don't yell and scream at them. Hey, daughter. Hey, son. This is what you did wrong, and let's fix it next time.
Right.
That's what's going on. That's what I think is going on.
Got it. So the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Adonai, God, among the trees in the garden. So Adonai called to the man and says, "Well, where are you?" He answered, "Well, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself." He said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree which I ordered you not to eat?" And what does the man do right off the bat? Wasn't me. The woman you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit from the tree and I ate. It was her fault. So Adonai God said to the woman, "What's this if you have done?" And the woman answered, "The serpent tricked me, so I ate." Interesting.
The man says it's not my fault. Woman says it's not my fault either.
Yep.
And it's somebody else's fault.
Yep. When in reality, did they know what they were doing the entire time?
100%.
100%. And what baffles me is, again, going back to Adam. He knew. He knew. And he chose. He chose that.
Now, did he choose to do that because his wife told him to do it?
Well,
Is that what?
I mean,
what
there's a possibility that Adam never saw the fruit, so he didn't know what it looked like. But I don't think that's the case. I think God would have shown him. There's the tree of good and evil. Look at it, but don't touch it and don't eat it. So I think he knew what it was. But maybe he was thinking, well, heck, Eve took a bite of it and she's still alive. Maybe, I don't know. And this was years before food poisoning, I guess, because I'll tell you what food poisoning is. There's a couple times in my life I knew I was going to die, and those were when I had food poisoning. Boy, do I hate food poisoning. But anyway, that's a side point. They knew exactly what they were doing. And they were and now they're blaming other people. They're blaming somebody else. They're not accepting responsibility. Is what it's coming down to. Okay, so continue. Let me pull this up a little bit.
No, I'm right where we're at. Oh, okay. And God said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all livestock and wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust as long as you live. I'll put animosity, thank you, between you and the woman, and between your descendants and her descendants. He will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel. And this is kind of Revelation kind of speak here. That's part of yes. This is almost word for word what's in Revelation, which we will get into much later.
This is from the very beginning. God has provided what's going to happen from the very beginning. Again, I don't know how long they were on the in the garden, but it didn't take long, and God said very, very clearly, he singular will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel.
And the next part is, to the woman he said, I will greatly increase your pain in childbirth, and you will bring forth children in pain. Your desire will be inward, your husband, but he will rule over you. Your desire will be towards your husband, but he will rule over you.
Yep. And I'll be honest with you, because I can't think like a woman, and I'm very thankful for that, I think, sometimes. But so anyway, I talked to my favorite female. Yeah. And I keep telling her that it's girl math. And I don't understand girl math. Yes, that's exactly right. Because I'm like, okay, that's great. So, but yes, and he says right then and there that you've received a curse. So far the serpent has received a curse, and now the woman has received the curse of greatly increasing the childbirth. Okay, and also your desire will be toward your husband. He will rule over you. Now to Adam, he said, this is the interesting part about the curse that he gives Adam. Okay, and if you listen very closely, Adam doesn't get the curse. To Adam, he says, because you listened to what your wife said and ate from the tree about which I gave you the order, you are not to eat from it. The ground is cursed on your account. Not you, the ground. You will work hard to eat from it as long as you live. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat field plants. You will eat bread by the sweat of your forehead until you return to the ground, for you were taken out of it. You are dust, and you will return to dust. You've heard this, the phrase, from dust to dust.
From dust to dust. So the ground is cursed. I can see that, but mankind is cursed to toil in the field.
Well, he's not cursed. He says, but you're going to have to work. We're going to have to work hard now.
Right. Yeah. And before you ate from the tree, everything was given to you. You didn't have to do anything.
Yep.
You just tend the garden
Yep.
and just be the joyful people you can. But since you've done this, now you have to toil through life, and childbirth is now going to hurt.
Yeah, and this brings teeth to the phrase in the New Testament. It says, "Those that don't work don't eat." That's kind of where this came from, and it gives it teeth because it's well, in this day and age, it's more cluttered, it's more gray, but back then that was definitely the case. And the reason I say it's more gray is because there are crafty serpents of people out there, the wolves in sheep clothing, that they hardly work at all. In fact, you probably don't do any work at all. It sucks for them because they don't know the capabilities of their own being. Anyway, so the man called his wife Havla, Eve is how it's normally translated, because she was the mother of all living.
Let me do the next one.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that and finish it off?
And I God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them.
Okay, hold up. Stop right there for a
Well,
second.
I think we're going to go with that.
Yeah, but stop right there for a second. So think about this for a second. They had already made the leaves, okay. But what happened to make the garments of skin for Adam and his wife? Okay,
I was just about to say that.
go then you say it.
So the skin of garments that he made for Adam and his wife are the livestock that he put on the earth to be used, and this is the foot in the door, the whatever you want to call it, to have people use what God's given you through life. Use the livestock. Use everything that God has given you to do whatever you need to do to have a good life through God.
Yeah.
And this is proof of it right here.
Well, the thing I was getting ready to point out is that at no time prior to this was there death. But in order to clothe Adam and his wife, garments were made of skin. So he had to rip the skin off of an animal.
Right. Could God have shown them how to do that so they had that knowledge a little bit later on in life?
Well, I suspect that happened in front of them, so they were just mortified about what they have done.
Right.
At least I'm kind of guessing that's what happened. I don't know that to be the case. I wasn't there. But it's if you show the perpetrator the consequences of their actions, it helps tremendously. It burns it into their soul, in a sense.
I see what you're saying.
All right, go ahead and finish it off.
And God said, "See, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now to prevent his putting out his hand and taking also from the tree of life, eating and living forever."
Okay, stop right there for a second. So the serpent made the comment. The reason that God doesn't want you to do that is because you'll know good and evil, and you'll be like God. And God just said, "See, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil."
And
Interesting point, huh?
No.
Now, I'm not saying that we're gods, even though technically, even God mentions by the prophets that we are gods, and even Jesus restated that. But there's a reason why he stated that, and we'll get to that way later. But we are not God, and the issue is that later on there's someone who wanted to become like God. You can't. God is God.
I wonder who that person is. I wonder.
Well, for those of you that have little knowledge of the Bible, you already know. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Okay, so he just said now to prevent putting out his hand and taking also from the tree of life, eating and living forever. Continue on.
Therefore, Adonai God sent him out to the Garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So he drove the man out and placed to the east of the Garden of Eden the something,
Just call it an angel.
the angel, and a flaming sword which turned in every direction to guard the way to the tree of life. So the tree of life cannot be touched or observed by any human because it's definitely being guarded.
Correct.
That's what the last sentence says.
Yep. And I also want to point out some other things that were said here too. So Adonai God sent him out of the Garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So remember, when he was first taken out of the ground,
right.
He was brought to the Garden of Eden, and now he's being put back to that ground which he was made. So does that make sense? He was there, and now he's back to the ground that which he was made.
To cultivate the ground from which he was taken.
Yep.
There you go.
So he drove the man out and placed at the east of the garden. So in other words, when he was taken out of the garden, he was moved to the east. And I don't know that it actually, yeah, it kind of does. It kind of gets to where it's at here in a little bit, maybe in a couple chapters. But again, we're still kind of in the Middle East area, east of the Middle East towards India area, I guess, like the Pakistan, those kind of areas. But anyway, that's this as far as the physical location on the globe. And again, the land was not the same as it was then as it is now. So
Correct.
Things have changed quite a bit. But anyway, yeah. So I think we can probably wrap that up right there, unless you want to add something else.
Wait. We can wrap it up, but we have a little segment before we shut everything down for the day.
Yep. Go ahead.
Is it in the Bible? And the drum roll, you're going to add that, right? Drum roll?
Absolutely.
I want to hear the drum roll. Drum roll is it in the Bible? My statement is, you see cartoons and comic strips with St. Peter at the pearly gates asking people after they die, talking to them, welcome them to heaven. Is St. Peter waiting for you at the pearly gates? That is my question. And is it in the Bible? Let's find out.
That's a good one. I like that one.
What do you have?
Mine's actually a pretty simple one. It's a statement that I think we've all heard. Most of us have heard anyway. But the question is if it's in the Bible or not. Haste makes waste. Haste makes waste.
Haste makes waste.
Yeah.
Is that in the Bible? I believe I know the answer to that question.
Cool.
Well, let's find out next week and see which one is or is not in the Bible.
Yes, absolutely. And again, put in the comments what your responses are, and have a good week. Have a good week. And then again, Steve, we'll see you next weekend, and we can listen to the cool bumper music on the way out.
I would enjoy
All right.
that. Yes, sir.
All right, have a good one.